And these are dense films and with a lot of exposition.
A lot of exposition. The guy doesn't believe in ADR. He loves a Hans Zimmer who loves a... which I do too.
Okay, I changed my mind. Your contribution to this podcast is sound effects. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no sound in space. Hello and welcome to Is This Bad? A show where we rewatch old movies that we did not love and with some distance test our priors to decide once and for all, is this bad? I'm joined by my bearded Ebert, Jason Doyle.
Hello.
Hi, JD, and producing the show, her honesty parameter set at least 90%. Honestly, could be set lower, in my opinion, Rachel Doyle.
I think it's a little higher, actually. That's why.
It's true. It might be 100. It might be... You might be the first person to ever do 110%.
Oh, 110%. She's at 110% all the time, offering up stuff unsolicited.
It's a problem.
Yeah, okay. Well, today's movie is 2014's Interstellar, a movie I definitely understood. And we're talking 72% critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 87% audience. I don't feel like 87% audience score does enough to illustrate how much people love this movie. Would you agree, JD?
100%. I know people who watch this movie twice a year. Is
that person Jay Skeets?
I think he's a once-a-year man, but I definitely know people who it's their all-time favorite movie.
Interstellar, definitely beloved by audiences. Mm-hmm. And I think generally, I would also say the general critic consensus seems to be better than 72%, but what do I know? In terms of awards, it didn't win any of the major awards of the Oscars, but it did win Best Visual Effects, and I'm sure we will talk about the visual effects as we go along. Nominated, but did not win Best Score.
Oh. What did win?
Well, you're not going to be happy about this, or maybe you will. The Grand Budapest Hotel. That twee little Belle and Sebastian ass Wes Anderson. I mean, okay. I was angry when I saw this fact because I did not remember this.
Yeah.
But I will say Hans Zimmer, or Hans, as probably you prefer to be called.
Yeah.
No one plays the Grand Budapest Hotel when they want to study, okay? And people are playing your soundtrack all the time. So I think you can take solace in that.
Yeah.
And I also looked it up on Spotify. I was about to call it Great Budapest Bake Off, but what I mean to say is Grand Budapest Hotel. Yeah. The biggest song on that album is called Mr. Mustafa, has 16 million plus streams. Okay, and no other song on the Grand Budapest Hotel soundtrack has more than 4 million streams.
Right.
But now let me tell you about a little track called Cornfield Chase, okay? Over 371 million streams.
Wow. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
People love this song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amazing soundtrack. I mean, the Grand Budapest Hotel, also an original sounding soundtrack, I would say. But I would say this is very original sounding too.
Did you feel like you were listening to a little Oppenheimer soundtrack?
Okay, well, we're already throwing shade.
No, that's not bad. I love the Oppenheimer soundtrack.
Yeah, but Hans Zimmer didn't write it.
I know, but
You think that Gunnar, what's his name, ripped off Hans Zimmer?
I think he's inspired by Hans Zimmer.
Hold on, the Oppenheimer guy's name is Gunnar?
I think it's Gunnar or something.
They were like, oh, Hans is not available. Get me another man with a very German-sounding name.
Yeah. But I like Fusion.
Oh, Fritz wasn't available?
I think he's been inspired. The Fusion song from Oppenheimer is quite similar to.
It's great.
Anyway, I love both of those soundtracks. But
well, Mr. Mustafa, by the way, I listened to it. It's actually not bad.
Yeah.
I think it's a French fella that did it. But it's nothing compared to this. It should have won, but it did not win.
Yeah.
What was your first experience with this movie, JD?
Oh, shoot. It's Ludwig.
Well, okay. So, you were doing it. You were doing the bit in your head.
I was, yeah.
You're like, what's a German-sounding name?
It was so close. God, another composer's name, too. Ludwig.
Wow.
Ludwig Göransson. I should have known that.
He was
Anyways.
bound to be a composer with that name.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, my first experience with Interstellar. Okay, this was 2014. When did the Dream one come out? what's it called? Inception.
Shutter Island?
Inception.
Oh, okay. Yes.
That came out before, right?
Did it?
Did it?
Well, we're already stumped.
I told you before.
Open it up.
Okay, I know you don't have any notes in front of you, JD,
Yeah.
but maybe you could have pulled up Christopher Nolan's IMDb.
Yeah, I'm doing
on
it
the
right
old
now.
iPhone 14, and that could have been your contribution.
Okay, well, I remember being annoyed with Nolan. Yeah, 2010 was Inception. Okay. 2010 Inception was a movie I saw in the theater, and it was a quintessential Christopher Nolan late aughts experience, because it's just like, okay, that was kind of cool. It was like a lot of action, but what the fuck, like dream within a dream within a dream. Also, can't hear half of what's being said. Very hard to follow.
And these are dense films with a lot of exposition.
A lot of exposition. The guy doesn't believe in ADR. He loves a Hans Zimmer who loves a which I do too. But I kind of
I changed my mind. Your contribution to this podcast is sound effects.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no sound in space.
Oh, there is sometimes.
There is a little when it's convenient to tell a story. I liked the Dark Knight trilogy enough. I wasn't like, woo, this is the best superhero movie I've ever seen. Then Inception happened, and I would remember like being somewhat satisfied coming out of the theater, and then being like, when I started to think about it, and I was like, what did I just watch? Very similar to Usual Suspects which we did last time. It was just like, did any of this actually happen? And what was the point of all of this? You know what I mean? So I had a little bit of a bone to pick with Nolan. And so I went into Interstellar with a bad attitude. I'll admit it. A very bad attitude.
And you're getting two Nolans this time. You're getting Jonathan Nolan, scriptwriter, and Christopher Nolan.
Are they related?
They are brothers, and one of them
brothers.
One of them has a lovely British accent. The other one was raised in somewhere in America.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I saw an interview with Jonathan. I was like, wait a minute.
Now, we might have to cut this out because I totally forgot to research this, but Joey Devine, a former guest of the show, sent me an incredible factoid that there is a third Nolan brother, and he is the black sheep of the family, and he was involved in some sort of crime, alleged to have murdered someone in, I believe, Costa Rica.
What?
Jesus.
Yeah, and he's like kind of on the run, and he uses the alias Oppenheimer.
What?
Now,
That is
apparently, it is to connote the Oppenheimers of the South African diamond trade and not the nuclear physicist.
Yes, the American
but still,
Prometheus.
that's pretty crazy, ain't it?
It is very crazy. I had no idea.
Thanks, Joey, for that fact. I hope you were right. So, did you like the movie or not?
Oh, we're sort of getting right into it.
Dive in.
No, well, did you like it the first time?
No. That is all that to say, I walked out of it going, score great, emotional. Like, it definitely made me cry. Christopher Nolan's most emotional movie, I would think. I don't know if I've seen them all, but anyway, very emotional, which I didn't like. I don't like emotions. I don't like it when I'm put in touch with my emotions. Yeah. So that was annoying.
So you were mad that he did a good job at rousing emotion out of a stone.
Yes, at that part of it. But then the confounding twist I found annoying. That ultimately, that is why I didn't like this movie when I first saw it. Because, again, walk out, go, you're somewhat satisfying. I feel like I got my money's worth in terms of visuals, in terms of, the score, the acting, the performances are incredible. And the story kept me locked in. But then, what are we doing here? Guess what? It's us from the future, creating a wormhole to ensure our own survival. What? What do you mean? How does that work?
Well, this movie has to lead in a a statistic that I guess maybe I'll shorten to RPPS, Reddit posts per scene.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like if you've ever, in your head you're going, hold on a second, wait, does this make sense? And then someone on Reddit's like, actually this makes the most sense of any movie ever made, so you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I had to put down the old Reddit when I was like reading a thread, and someone in all caps, like the thread's like 10, exchanges long, and then the final one is someone that's been responding in all caps. I've already answered this question. If you continue to insist on looking at time in a linear fashion, then I cannot help you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when I was out. Like usually I'll do a little bit more reading than I did for this one, but I did happen upon a couple of Reddits, and it was just like, listen, idiot. The chicken and the egg. Have you ever heard of them? Yes. Well, which came
both
first?
Delicious.
I'm like, you tell me, man.
That's
you tell
the
me.
problem.
Okay, well, Rachel, what was your first experience? I never check with you, but again, if this is like any other movie,
Matt.
you saw it around when it came out on video, you fell asleep, you never thought about it again. Then when we said we were doing this movie for the show, you watched it 3 times in the last 2 days.
Yes, Matt, I've got to change my ways. Okay, I've come to the realization that I'm a very inefficient movie watcher, and
Can I say what happened? So she watched the movie. We watched the movie. She fell asleep. It's like, yeah, whatever. Obviously, it's like, it's okay. I'll finish.
How do you not wake her when it's fine?
I
Fine
do.
if it's a regular Tuesday and you're watching Netflix's Carry On. But if it's for the show, don't you want to wake her up and say, you're gonna need to know what happens here?
I do.
he knows that I'll go back and I'll do it again. But I watched it again and fell asleep again, and I left with the same dissatisfaction. I'm like, I missed something very, very important.
There's probably at least 3 very, very important things.
So,
But this time you actually thought that you finished watching the movie, and you're like, oh, that was very unsatisfying. I feel there's a lot of loose ends. I'm like, what are you talking about? They communicated the formula.
I'm like, what? They
saved
did?
the Earth.
Oh,
Wait, so when did she fall asleep? What scene?
I'm like, well, remember when he was sitting on the fake, in the museum of his old house on the field, and she's like, I have no recollection of that. I'm like, well, you didn't finish watching this movie.
So I went in the 3rd time, and nothing was missed. So
and that was the charm, as they say.
Oh my God, this inspired me to go, okay, we're watching 5 more science fiction films that were consecutively released after Interstellar. Oh no, we watched Gravity, The Martian, Arrival, and then we watched Contact. Okay, I'm gonna get this.
And you made it through
How
all
does
of them.
Contact hold up these days, actually?
I watched it last night. It's very good.
Really? Because I loved Contact when it came out.
But
I was a kid. I mean, I was a kid.
Yeah.
What did I know from wormholes and black holes?
It's definitely 90s,
Yeah, there's that underlying sexism that's, okay, you want me to be mad about this, I'm mad. Now I'm just annoyed that I have to watch the sexism that you're trying to get me pissed off about.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's fine. But it was still
worked.
good. I mean, that was based on a Carl Sagan book, right? So, this.
Oh, well, you think this movie's not based on science? Do you think this movie's not based on the work of theoretical physicist Kip Thorne? Well, you're dead wrong, Rachel, because it is. This is the most science-based movie of all time. And if you don't understand it, then maybe you need to see it a 4th time.
I am aware of the facts. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm actually surprised you didn't ask if we could delay this podcast for 3 weeks so you could read the book, The Science of Interstellar by Kip Thorne.
Oh, he wrote
a real book that came out. Yeah, that was basically like, for anyone that's saying, because, one scientist does one thing and goes all Hollywood. You got 50 jealous scientists yipping and yapping at his heels, right? So he had to put this book, like putting his scientific nuts on the table and saying, this is what this movie's based on. And it's all possible. Even what's that malcontent's name? Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, yep, this could happen.
Well, he was working with a team of physicists, wasn't he? It wasn't just solo Kip.
No, Kip got dazzled by the lights, and now he's just
the lights of Hollywood.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Kip's gone Hollywood. I'm just saying, All
his friends are like,
It's like, oh yeah, this.
You hear Kip took the patches off the elbows of his lecturing jacket.
Oh.
He thinks he's too cool now.
He's gone rogue then.
He's like,
Kip doesn't think a sweater vest is fashionable anymore.
That's exactly right.
You were sort of reminding me. Remember when Neil deGrasse Tyson went on the Daily Show? It was probably around this time, to be honest. And he told Jon Stewart that the globe in the opening animation for the Daily Show was spinning in the wrong direction. and everyone loved it.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, well, I think Neil took the wrong lesson from that. Like, I think he took from that, the audience loves it when I correct something.
Yeah.
And I think we don't. I mean, at least like,
I love it. Why don't you like it?
oh, he's so he'd literally be like, catch them all. Well, what? How could one catch all the Pokemon? If the universe is infinite, what does all really mean? It's like, shut up, Neil.
You don't appreciate the nerdery, Matt. Come on. He is.
I do. I appreciate. I mean,
I
that was the
love
question I
him.
was gonna. Are you? You said you watched all these space movies. Well, JD, I'll ask you: are you a big space head? Because obviously you're a big Star Wars, and I think you're a Star Trek guy. But
Totally.
like a more real, like Apollo 13,
Yeah.
Contact, Arrival, these kind of Sunshine. Are you into the space?
Love it. I love it all.
Okay. So you were, in theory, a mark for this movie.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you about when I saw it first, since no one's going to ask me.
Oh, sorry,
I
Matt.
got to come out and say it.
Oh, Jesus.
2014, we're in Atlanta. I saw it in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
I saw it the way it was meant to be seen in IMAX.
Nice.
But it was definitely one of those IMAXs that you walk in and go, this is an IMAX? You know? Like when it's just in a local, like the Atlantic
Yeah.
Station Theater. Like, IMAXs used to be
6
towering.
stories tall.
monuments.
Yeah.
You know? Where we'd watch a 23-minute movie about Alaska for
Yeah.
some reason.
And you'd feel you'd feel airsick because it was, like these sweeping epic shots. Yeah.
So it's IMIN. It's not IMAX.
Yeah.
It's
exactly right.
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. Anyways, I remember I liked the movie. I thought it looked awesome. Acting was great. Score was great. Then I'm not going to call it a twist, but the black hole tesseract scene, which obviously, imagine if I was like, which we won't get to. I frankly did not understand it. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And so I left the theater being like, I liked it, but I was confused. And then as time went on, and we're like 11 years in, or basically 10 years in, because it was re-released this year, it became kind of meme-ified. Like you would see like McConaughey crying, like when he's watching the videos.
Yes.
And then especially like people just screaming Murph, as McConaughey does very frequently in this movie, or people making references to like, being in the bookshelf. And I, over time, I'm just like, yeah, he was in the bookshelf, huh? Like, did that make sense? And as time went on, it became more untethered from the plot of the movie, to the point where I was just, if you were to ask me about it, I would be like, Interstellar doesn't hold together. And so therefore it's not a good movie. But I'm pleased to say, on a rewatch, I'm pretty much back in.
Wow.
With some reservations. So I'm interested to hear what you think. But before we get into the movie, some quick housekeeping. If you want to support the show and get exclusive content, go to patreon.com/isthisgood. Every dollar you send us is like payment for me wading through a Reddit thread of, even though the people aren't yelling at me specifically, I feel like they're yelling at me. And do you think I understand math? You think JD's good at math? Rachel, are you good at math?
Yeah,
I
she's
used to
pretty
be.
good.
I
She's
used to be.
Okay, so Rachel's good at science, but the rest of us aren't, and it's very difficult for us to learn about these films. Maybe later I'll give you some analogies and explain Einstein's theories to you,
Yeah.
but I don't really understand them. Send topics for future shows to isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe. And what else should you? Oh, yeah, rate us 5 stars on the internet in general. And remember, it's Jehovah's January, so there's still time to knock on those doors and tell folks about the pod. Remember, there's nothing people like more than a stranger ringing their doorbell. Okay? That's true. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. All right, Interstellar. So, you know how now in the present time, JD, we look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars?
Sure.
You know how you're always doing that?
Always doing that.
Well, in 2067, where this movie takes place, they just look down and worry about their place in the dirt.
Look, every
pretty
time,
sad.
every time sweet Matthew goes into one of his deep pontifications, I get all.
So,
Just
do you want to
keep talking.
start?
Just
with
keep talking,
saying,
baby. Just keep talking.
Is he a major crush for you, McConaughey?
Yeah. So there's a problem. McConaughey, am I saying it right? McConaughey.
What other way would there be to do
I don't
it?
know. Like I'm questioning.
I don't know.
I'm questioning. No, McConaughey. Am I?
Well, have you ever heard anyone say Matthew McConaughey?
I don't know. But the kids corrected me, and I thought, I'm like, am I saying this wrong?
What did they say?
Maybe they were making fun of me. McConaughey.
Well, he's Irish, so really, JD should know.
Okay.
Wait,
Sorry, look at the
Wait, you don't know how to pronounce
I
an
say
Irish last name?
McConaughey.
Okay, McConaughey.
It's
I've been saying it right.
McConaughey.
McConaughey. Hey.
I'm not. Do you feel confident that you could spell it, Rachel?
No.
Yeah,
I
tough
typed
one.
it in. I'm like, fuck.
There's a lot of those red crooked lines in my document under that word because I'm never spelling it right.
Matthew McConaughey.
Okay, it's the hay.
Matthew
Hey,
McConaughey.
baby.
Why do you trust that thing more than you trust me?
Oh well.
I'm not. It's a double check.
It's just
That's
a-
all.
Oh, okay.
You gotta check your
I bet if
sources.
Tars told you it was McConaughey, you'd believe
Fucking right. I
Look,
would.
it.
science, baby. Check your sources.
All right. Well, there's a blight. Okay, it's killed every crop besides corn.
Yeah.
That's where we are. How bad is it? People are actually sad about losing okra.
You're not an okra fan?
I actually don't mind okra, but many people famously hate okra
Yeah.
due to its slimy texture.
Yeah. It's gross.
Consistency.
I'm one of them.
Not to jump ahead here, but what do you think of the way Michael Caine says okra in this movie?
Oh, how did he?
Okra.
Okra. No, I didn't even notice that.
I guess is how British people say it.
Sure. Why not?
And Nolan's British, so maybe he was just like, that's well, I mean, that's true to the character. Or do you think, having lived in America for decades, Michael Caine would just say okra? Because I say nacho and now I say nacho. So
Right.
one can adjust.
Yeah, but he moved here much older and at a much later stage in his life than you moved here. You were still.
Is that true? Hasn't he
Yeah.
been working at NASA for decades?
No, I'm talking about Michael Caine. I don't even think
Well,
he
I'm
lives
talking
in the
about the
US.
character Michael Caine is playing in the movie.
Well, all right. Yeah, I
wow.
suppose you're right. The character should know how to properly pronounce okra.
Oh my God.
You're right.
This
Right.
is like
No,
next
Rachel, this is
level.
important because let's just say,
Every single other detail is we got a fucking astrophysicist in here to make sure that everything is correct.
Where's the
but we
dialogue
can't get a guy
coach?
to actually say okra correctly.
yeah, because okay, here's a thought experiment. If let's say instead of okra that had just died, it was eggplant, would he be like, we no longer have aubergine?
Yes.
Like I don't.
Sounds way better than eggplant.
I think Nolan would be like, well, people are gonna bump against that, but
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we got the Cooper family. He's got a son that he likes and a daughter that he loves.
Stop.
Well, come on. He does not like Tom.
He does so. He makes sure he goes out of his way to say, this is for you, and that's for you. And he does. He looks back at him. Every time he's giving attention to Murph, he's making sure the boy's included too.
There is no world in which he loved Tom as much as Murph.
Yeah.
Murph was the embodiment of him.
Yeah.
Tom was just a stupid farmer, and Coop didn't even want to be a farmer. He's an engineer and a pilot. He got forced into this by the blight.
Yeah. There's that scene at the baseball game where he's like, I'm sorry you did so bad on that test, son. I guess you're going to be a farmer for the rest of your life. And he's like, I love being a farmer.
Say, how come it takes 2 measurements to measure your pants, but only 1 to tell me my son's an idiot?
Oh my God. You know, he was standing up for his son, and he was.
No, he did. He did stand up for his son.
yeah,
But come on,
100%.
And
it's
that's-
all about Murph.
I loved that scene. I loved when he came out and said, I got you suspended.
It's a great scene. He's a great dad, except that he favors one child over the other. That's
Yeah, and that's
She's
I
over.
don't think that's fine. He loves Tom enough, as much as a normal parent would love their child. He just loves Murph more. It's not like
That's
there's a
right.
deficit of love for
She
Tom.
is younger,
But don't
too.
tell me that he doesn't love Murph more.
She is younger, so maybe he's giving her a little extra attention. The older teenage boy doesn't require it as much.
Love is required at the end in the Tesseract to figure everything out, right? Love is what pushes him towards Murph.
To the right, yeah.
The love that he had with Tom was not enough to get him through the Tesseract.
That's right. He didn't even ask if Tom was still alive when he showed up.
Murph was the chosen one. Tom was.
He's like, let me
keeping
slide
people
through
fed.
this Tesseract. Maybe I'll catch Tom in the background of something just to see what he looks like.
You guys are terrible.
Okay, anyways. It's bad. It's bad where they are. The family is tight. They love each other, but the world is bleak. Like, we find out there are these resource wars that were fought in the past, and the militaries have been disbanded, and education, no one gives a shit about it anymore, and teachers are teaching fake history. And the New York Yankees are reduced to some Barnum and Bailey touring act.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of dust. And this is kind of where we get going, actually, because it's in one of the dust storms that the dust collects in patterns on the floor of Murph's room in front of this bookshelf. And it could be a ghost or it could be a gravitational anomaly. And that's how they basically, the movie kicks off. They find NASA. JD, how do you feel at this point? Like, how do you feel the setup of this world? It's in the future. It looks kind of like our world, but it's not our world. And also like the father-daughter relationship, which if you don't buy into this, then I think the movie doesn't really hold together very well, because I would say that relationship is at the center of the film. So how are you feeling about it so far?
Oh, I'm loving it so far. I love the bleakness of the future. I love the stakes are set right away. The relationship between Murph and, to be fair, all his kids, he's just a good dad.
I forgot that it was Timothy Chalamet.
Yes,
I have to be honest with you.
Me too. Who's great in it. And
he's great, but he's not that lovable.
His least sexy
well,
role.
he's less lovable when he becomes Casey Affleck.
Oh.
Yeah, no question there.
But
I'll tell you,
anyways,
Tom wouldn't be able to fit under the rags of the front seat of the car and hide.
That's right. I do love the dynamic of how Matthew McConaughey is, or Coop is. He's actually delighted at his daughter's rebelliousness. He's overjoyed that she snuck into the pickup with him to stow away, and just her natural curiosity, and just the two of them are obviously very, very close, and that comes across on screen, including the part where he's in the secret base. He has no idea where he is. Just illustrates how close they are, and I loved it, and which makes what happens next all the more heartbreaking. It's rare that I'm like welling up in the end of the first act. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, so like you're saying when Murph doesn't want him to leave.
Yeah. And he leaves. And he does a terrible job convincing her.
She was way too hard on him. Right? Like,
come on. Are you crazy? She's a fucking child and her dad is leaving forever. She's not hard on him.
To save the world.
Yeah, she's a fucking child, Matt.
Yeah, and she holds the grudge. She holds the grudge, we later find out, for decades.
Yeah, because I don't think he told her that this was life and death for her. Well, because he says as much later.
He does not know that he's not coming back at this point.
Yeah, but he doesn't know when he's coming back.
And
then he makes the mistake of saying, hey, when I come back, we might be the same age. And she's like, what?
The whole talk he gave her, there was nothing about it that was going to make her feel all happy inside. Like,
no, I don't expect her to be happy, but like she's acting like her daddy is absent because he's a lawyer and he drinks a lot or something like that.
Right.
But
he's absent because he's trying to save the world.
I'm with a better life. Comprehend that, Matt. She's what? How old is she in that?
I don't know, 10.
Yeah, come on.
But I'm with you when it's fresh and when it's like, hey, I gotta go and this is important and I'm sorry, but I'm leaving. She's upset. I get that. Chair against the door. She misses him leaving. You know, she runs out after he leaves. That's fine. You're right, Matt. She literally has no contact with him until she becomes his age 23 years later. Right? That's a long time to hold a grudge.
Yeah, but very good for the plot of the movie.
Well, you're not very good at holding grudges then.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's nothing for you. God.
Rachel, how are you at the start of this movie here? I know you already are skeptical of the education system in America, so you probably liked him sticking it to that smarmy principal and school teacher.
His calm demeanor and my wife was the calm one. I enjoyed it very much.
It's nice to know that people in the future are just as bad at setting people up on dates. Like when John Lithgow's like, hey, you got to go to this parent-teacher conference and dress nice because the teacher's single. It's like, why do you think we'd be good together? Well, you're single and she's single. Did I not already say that?
You have a wiener. She has a
like-
hole.
She doesn't believe we landed on the moon.
Yeah.
So? It's like, so I'm a NASA pilot.
And
But Rachel, you don't know how to pronounce McConaughey? Not NASA or NASA?
I don't think it's
NASA
like NASSAU.
Yeah, that's an island in the Bahamas.
So we're going NASA.
NASA, yeah.
NASA. Yeah. Okay. Anyways,
And
much like today, people are just like, if you're single and you are interested in the opposite gender, that is enough for us to set you up. We're not going to look into it, any of her beliefs or your beliefs or any other compatibility issues, except the fact that you're both single.
That hit home,
but
Matt?
there was a better woman waiting for him. So.
Yes. And is he a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, aerospace engineer? Did I miss that?
Well, Michael Caine was his teacher, they say, right?
And he is. Oh, well, was he a
Some kind of
physicist or aerospace?
And physicist. I mean,
He could have been one
I don't
of
work
his
at Jet
teachers.
Propulsion Labs. I don't know the answer to the question.
All right. Well, maybe somebody does.
What do you think of TARS? You jumped ahead, I guess, a little bit, but the coordinates from the dust lead them to NASA, which I think is like a super cool scene. They're like, what is this fence here? Mm-hmm. And then the bright lights come up and they get taken in. We meet TARS, who is a robot that I was very skeptical of. Even on the rewatch, I was like, oh yeah, this thing, this like literal rectangle.
I love it.
But I loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can call him a him. Nolan said he didn't want to make the robots anthropomorphic. Listen, I mean, whatever you think about Nolan, just listen to him explain this. It has a very complicated design philosophy. It's based on mathematics. You've got 4 main blocks, and they can be joined in 3 ways. So you have 3 combinations you follow. But then within that, it subdivides into a further 3 joints. And all the places we see lines, those can subdivide further. So you can unfold a finger, essentially, but it's all proportional. I kind of understand what he's saying, but at the same time, like, wow, like, just to fucking sit down and think of that and get and insist on that and get it right. I mean,
It was
I don't know.
It
I
was
really-
very cool when you did see him and Case do what they needed to do. They move and transform into the positions they need to like run through the water to grab Brand.
Oh, that's-
Amelia.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very cool seeing that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just thought it looked fucking stupid at first. When he's
100%.
looming over Matthew McConaughey, it takes you a second to realize, oh, this is a robot that's intimidating Matthew McConaughey.
Well, because it's black and it blended in with the background too.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm also a little convinced, and correct. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but definitely a little tip of the hat to 2001, because they're basically monoliths, right? And
Yes.
there's a journey that is taken at the end of this movie, also like 2001. So maybe a little illusion there, but I'm with you.
a tip of the cap.
Yeah, I thought they were stupid at first, and and then they just grew on me. Like I just thought they were cool, especially as Rachel said, like turning into a spinning wheel, basically to chase down in the water is great.
And I love every time he brings up the joke, the honesty joke with Amelia Brand, the comedy or humor joke, like the humor percentage joke with TARS, like, and threatening him to bring it down. And every time the callback works for me.
It's great.
I think after we get to NASA, though, like, it starts to slow down for me in this portion here. There's just so much exposition. I mean, the first time that I watched it, I was like, okay, like a wormhole. Someone put it here 48 years earlier. Me raising my hand in the back. Yeah, why didn't they move it closer?
That's
like,
exactly what
why
I
does it have to be? I also think, don't you think they were too hard on themselves because they're like, there's the blight and society sucks now and no one cares about science. But they can fly to Saturn and go into hypersleep. The flight takes 2 years to get to Saturn.
Yeah.
And that's only like 40 years from where we are now in real time?
Yeah. They're doing
So
great.
if in 40 years we can make it to Saturn and go into hypersleep for 2 years, won't you be like pretty impressed?
Yeah, very impressed.
We find out that they basically, beyond this wormhole, it shoots you out into another galaxy where there's a big black hole named Gargantua, and they've sent out volunteers to scout 12 possible livable planets, and 3 of those astronauts have pinged them back and said, like, hey, come check out these places. Miller, Edmonds, and Mann are the names of the astronauts, but also the names of the planets, at least for the purposes of the movie. What did you think of the whole Plan A versus Plan B? Like, I kind of felt like they put such a highlight on it that even the first time I was like, they're not doing Plan A, are they? Mm. Did you feel that way, or did you feel like it was sufficiently explained and you were like, okay, well, they're definitely trying to save everyone, but if that doesn't work out, they're going to repopulate it using these frozen embryos?
I was satisfied with the Plan A and Plan B, but like you, I was glazing over for sure. Like, there's certain distractions with, like, we're in the middle of this huge exposition scene and they go, notice anything different about this boardroom? And then it opens up and you're literally at the foot of a shuttle. That's good. Like
some good
it's like, hello, how are you going? So when this shuttle takes off, this boardroom is burning. Just makes no sense to have the boardroom there. And I'm like, then next thing you know, you're in the lab and they're like, hey, this is Plan B. It's a whole bunch of embryos that are fertilized. Right. By who, I wonder?
The best of them.
Nothing but the best. Nothing but the
right.
best.
So you're saying in like years from now on that planet, when they do their 23andMe's, they're going to be like,
oh, good.
Oh,
I think we all have the same dad.
We all say okra the same way.
Oh, no. You think Michael Caine gave a little donut glaze to those embryos? They address that because they're saying that they make them genetically different enough so that when they mate in the future, they won't have like abnormalities and stuff. So that was nice of them.
Yeah.
What do you want to just have a McConaughey conversation? Because you've brought it up a few times already, Rachel. I think we all love him in this movie.
Yeah.
My question is, watching it on a rewatch, and this is the problem with rewatching movies, is you come to it now with everything you've learned since you first saw it. To me, McConaughey is becoming a bit of a caricature. I don't know if you feel this way, like between the Lincoln ads and this other ad where he's in the rain across the street from Woody Harrelson, and the talk show appearances and the autobiography, and maybe he's running for office and he's making terrible tuna salad recipes that we all have to pretend are good because he's so hot. He's becoming kind of like a Snoop Dogg to me, like just kind of like a kooky guy. And so when I watch him in this role, which I do think he's amazing in, I don't know, it kind of affects it for me. I don't feel the same way about him that I did when I first saw the movie. But I don't know if I'm alone in that.
Okay. So you don't masturbate to him anymore, is what you're telling me.
Not anymore, but
okay.
Hold on. Maybe this will help you understand.
I will still.
If you compare McConaughey to like a Brad Pitt or a Leo or a Damon, who, spoiler alert, is in this movie, don't you feel like they're pretty opaque? And so when they're in a movie, I find them still very believable as whatever it is they are. Whereas McConaughey feels more of this world because he interacts with it more. Like, these people, Brad Pitt and Leo, I guess Damon would be a bad example because he did all those crypto ads, but I don't know. They just feel like a little less accessible to us. And so they're more of a mystery to me, whereas McConaughey feels like he's almost become the character from Dazed and Confused.
Oh.
But I guess I'm alone on this.
I don't know.
That's totally fine.
I mean, look, McConaughey was the shirt-off rom-com guy for like 10 years straight. That's all he did. He just was in rom-coms taking his shirt off. And then, he won an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. And yeah, he is McConaughey. I would be almost disappointed if I went to a movie and McConaughey was in it and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that was Matthew McConaughey. You want to see...
Is he using an accent? No. Keep your beautiful Southern accent.
You know what I mean? Like
No, but I'm saying be all the McConaughey you can be.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that I don't feel the same way about Matthew McConaughey in 2025 as I did in 2014. And it affects the way I watch it now.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay.
If you don't...
No,
I think that's true, then don't ask me to rewatch movies. Because I'm going to come with my new experiences that I've had.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair.
That have formed me in the last decade.
That's totally fair. But so, I believe McConaughey and most of the rule. I just watched him in Contact. Mm-hmm. Very different character, but still McConaughey. Like he still had the swagger, the mumbly sort of drawl, and he's great, and you love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
Well, we go from the goodbyes to Murph right into space. Did this movie, I would say, feels simultaneously way too long and sometimes too short. Like, in a sense, not that I needed like a training montage, but I frankly was wondering, when was the last time he piloted a plane? Like,
when he landed that Indian drone. What do you mean?
Yeah, that was such a good scene too. I love that all of a sudden he's racing through the cornfield with his son. He is bonding with his son, putting full trust into him. He stopped right at the cliff.
Who landed the plane though?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Murph got to land the plane.
Well, he's driving the truck. They have their roles. They have their roles that are written in the stars, I guess. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, he landed that. He hacked into it and landed it. That was fucking cool.
Yeah. Listen, as far as like going from the goodbye to space, I was grateful for. I thought it was well done. The countdown as he's driving away, crying his eyes out, and then that we're in space, I was grateful for, because we got to get moving here, people. You know,
no, 100%. Like, we're an hour into the movie at this point, pretty
exactly.
much. But anyways, I just thought it was an interesting choice. Like, you know, I don't know, the two other dudes that are on their spaceship maybe would have had more of an impact if there was some kind of like meeting the team, or I don't know.
That's a fair criticism.
I totally agree. I was like, it just jarred me. I totally agree with the decision, but it did jar me. By Murph, and he's checking the seat next to him to see if she's there and tearing, and then boom, we're in space. Like, but I agree. It shouldn't have been any longer than it was. Do you want me to clear out so you can talk about sound effects and space? Now that we're there?
Yeah, sure. You want to talk about sound effects in space? I'd love to. There's no sound in space, except when we want to hear something. You know what I mean?
But in this one, are there sounds in this one?
Yeah.
There are definitely sounds that happen in space, but when we sort of establish that we're in space, Nolan drops the sound effects and the score.
Yeah.
So it's like complete silence, which is how it would be. I'm into it to a point. I think that it was appropriate when Captain Mann or whatever blows up the airlock. we do hear that, right?
Yeah.
But we don't hear it, but we sort of hear it in the score still.
And they've got that score rolling when he's trying to connect, when Coop is trying to connect, and it's so fucking exciting.
Yeah.
They're flashing in and out. I was like, yeah, I'll take that song.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. But to illustrate that there's no sound in space,
he did it quite a few times.
Listen, this is what their mandate is. We're making a science fiction movie that's based in reality as much as possible, just to put us in a real headspace, which amps up the stakes, which I'm 100% into, for sure. Well, what really bothers me with Nolan and sound is when they're taking off and we're finally getting a little... This is what the first time we're hearing Tars make some jokes, like be funny, but we can't fucking hear him. We can't hear what McConaughey and the other dude are saying because they're wearing helmets, and Nolan's not going to put a little mic inside the helmet, so we're listening, and the sound effect of the rocket taking off is drowning everything out. So you literally can't hear what these...
Yeah, it's realistic, sorry.
Yeah, well...
It's the most realistic movie ever made.
Except the frozen clouds. That was not.
Well, that's not realistic.
That's not realistic.
But like, do you think, because it's funny, because as a sound person, like a person that has done sound, I mean, there are many things that don't make the sounds that they make in films. You know what I mean? Like, you know, a laser, for instance, does not make a pew pew sound. It makes no sound, as far as I know from lasers.
Yeah. Maybe a slight buzz.
Right. But if you saw Star Wars and they were shooting those, you know, laser guns.
Yeah.
And
blasters,
they weren't going... blasters, blasters, of course. Sorry. And you don't hear the pew pew. You're like, what? Did they forget to add something here?
Yeah. No, it's weird. It's weird. Fuck. It's weird for me if I see a door close on screen and it doesn't squeak, because I was always told to put a squeak on a door every single time. Or outside, if it's outside at night, if there's a dog's not barking, is it even night?
What is
or a wolf howling?
What is the name of that scream when someone's falling?
The Wilhelm scream.
Wilhelm scream. If that does not come out at least once in a Star Wars movie, there's something seriously
exactly.
wrong.
But yeah, I mean, when my favorite one is when people turn on lights in a big room, right? ka-chunk, you know. You
But
always
then
hear that
also about how much light appears on the screen. Like it's like one lamp is suddenly lighting a 500 square foot room as if it's the surface of the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, your point is taken. I will say that the choices here that Nolan made in terms of sound brought me more into the story and didn't push me out. So
100%. I mean, I think the sound, especially if you include the score and the sound effects and the VFX, are pretty unimpeachable in this whole movie.
You can.
I mean, it looks amazing, especially 10 years ago. Not like 10 years ago was so different, but I'm just saying, if you in your head think, 10 years later, we should be able to produce something that looks way better than this. Right. No, you actually can, and we will get to that in a bit. So let's get to the first planet. There's 3 possible planets. The one they decide to go to is Miller's planet, which is the water planet. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say best scene in the movie. I love just the concept of how time is so dilated because of its proximity to the black hole. Yep. So I believe it's 1 hour on Miller's planet is 7 years on their spaceship.
Correct.
Yeah. So obviously it sets up an amazing ticking clock where it's like, you stop to take an extra breath, that's months.
Yeah.
And it just imbues that scene with so much stress and anxiety and like, go. But also we got to like do this right and get this information. We got to figure out, is the future of humanity going to exist on this planet while also getting the fuck out of here as soon as possible? And probably it's just my favorite moment when she gets out, it's into the water, which is super shallow, which I learned on Reddit, I think is because there's so much force of the waves are pulling in all the water to create whatever. And she goes, oh, wow, mountains. And then he goes, those aren't mountains. And then you just see this giant wave forming. Anyway, my favorite part of the movie.
I didn't realize till the second rewatch that ticking meant an hour. Every tick was an hour.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you listen and you're like, oh my God, every hour that goes by is a tick.
Right.
Tick. Anyway,
what do you think of the scene, JD?
Oh, I loved it. I loved even the exposition. Like here's where the exposition gets very tricky, I think, because up to this point it's like the world's dying. We have a plan A, we have a plan B. It's going to take us 2 years to get to Saturn. Now we're through the wormhole. And now we're dealing with relativity. And I did find it hilarious how often they would say, it's relativity, stupid. Did you forget about relativity? It's E equals MC squared, man. Remember? I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. I still don't really get relativity myself, but it's like they just pound it into your head. But they were able to effectively sort of explain very quickly with a whiteboard, hey, we can't do this. We're going to waste too much time. And then, well, I'll park the ship here. You're not affected by time. And then we're going to go. And yeah. And then, as you say, the stakes couldn't be higher. Their children's lives are just ticking away. The scope and size of the wave was anxiety provoking for sure.
Even Laird Hamilton would look at that thing and say, no thanks.
I know. I definitely thought of McNamara there. He'd be like a huge boner.
Oh, right? Stoked. He watches Interstellar just for that scene.
What's his jet ski rider's name? Bonesy? Not Bonesy.
Cotty, get this jet ski. We're going. Now you're doing a Leos. Cody, we got to go to the planet with the big waves.
Yeah. My only criticism is I would have liked to see the ship get battered around a little bit more.
The wave was way too big for the effect that it had on the ship.
Okay.
Totally.
And
yeah.
Agree.
why is Doyle just standing there?
Yeah.
Just waiting to die.
I know. They were not moving with. Well, I guess they justify it by saying that. Is it like the gravity is so intense that they can't really move very quickly?
Yeah,
but he's standing at the door like, no, you first.
The ladies first.
Yeah, I know.
Chivalry killed him.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, by the time they get back to the Endurance, which is their ship, 23 years have passed.
Poor Romilly. He looked
rough.
Yeah.
He had a couple hypersleeps in there. Mm-hmm. And this is where we get the video message scene, which Nolan called the North Star of the movie. So McConaughey is basically catching up on a cache of 23 years worth of video messages that his kids have sent him. Yeah. You ever seen these little memes where people will screen cap their phone and it'll be like 38,000 unread text messages?
Yeah.
That's what Coop was doing on the plane.
Yeah.
Rachel, did you cry during this scene?
Yeah. I mean, I cried multiple times. I'm sure that was one of them because I was sad. It was very sad.
Yeah, a baby dies in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a very
Yeah, but it's Tom's baby, so.
a theme through all of those movies we watched is very much your closest family members are dead.
Yeah.
Fucking fall apart. And every one of those movies, space and tragedy. Family tragedy. Anyway.
This scene couldn't work better for me.
Oh,
I mean, I know it's
so
been
good.
memeified now where you just put something in and you cut to McConaughey crying. But, like, this is my Achilles heel. Like, seeing people age rapidly. Mm-hmm. Like, I've talked about how Boyhood, I find one of the saddest movies of all time because you actually see the people getting older with this in the span of the 2 hours.
That's why I'll never watch it.
Yeah, no thank
Yeah,
you.
well, I don't blame you. I don't blame
No,
you.
we're fucking living it. Jesus. These children are now young men.
Yeah.
It's killing me.
I always, like, if I'm watching a World War II documentary and there's just, like, 29-year-old man just full of life, and in my head I just go, oh, he's dead now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even if in the context of the documentary or the movie they haven't said, oh, he died, I'm just like, oh, you're dead.
Right. Yeah.
So just seeing the kids age very quickly and sort of talk about how their lives have been, affected by him leaving and how the earth sucks. I mean, oh God, the waterworks. Apparently McConaughey, they showed him these movies for the first time on camera, and he like genuinely reacting to them and found them very touching.
Yeah, I bet.
That's an actor, baby.
Yeah.
And very effective use of score because it just cuts off. When Tom's messages are done, the score just cuts off. Like, doesn't resolve. It's just, boop, that's it. That's all you get. And then until Murph pops up.
Do you
Still
think he was
holding
like-
a grudge.
But hold on, do you think that he was like, holy shit, Jessica Chastain's in this movie?
She's like got her PhD, I assume, somewhere, a theoretical
She's very smart.
physicist. Anyway. And she's like, son bitch. And all of a sudden it goes from fucking The Rock from Fast and Furious, calling her dad son bitch. The rest of the movie, she's just beautifully articulate.
Well, these are big emotions. This is the first time she's spoken to him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, Damon time.
Damon time.
Damon time.
Oh, Matt
Damon
Damon time.
Oh.
Yeah, let's get to Damon.
What other Damon times are there?
I was like, wait, Damon Wayans is in this? I do not remember that.
I mean, I would have been just as surprised if Damon Wayans showed up in this movie.
I know.
As I was. You can never recreate the first time you saw this movie, and if you saw it in theaters, you probably were like surprised to see Matt Damon
Yeah.
pop up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So, if it's important to you, after 20 years have passed, they get back on. Now they got to pick another one to go to. They've only got enough fuel, I guess, to go to one planet. They pick the Damon planet because he's still transmitting from there. So they say this is a good sign. Mm-hmm. Well, they get there and I ruined it, but it's Matt Damon. Whoa, crazy! Is this The Martian? No, that's a different movie that came out around the same time. This is just a cool cameo that he's playing. I felt immediately that he was evil. How did you feel?
Oh, immediately.
Yeah, you kind of knew it. But I would also say this whole series of scenes works great for me. Mm-hmm. I love how he's like, oh, what, that robot? Oh, no, it's just nothing. Don't. It fell apart. I swear. And that's as the other robots slowly putting it back together, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I know something bad is going to happen, but I don't quite know what.
Yeah.
How does this scene on the frozen planet work for you, JD?
Yeah, I loved it. You skipped over Anne Hathaway wanting to go to the other planet
Yes.
because her boyfriend was on that one.
But Coop really.
We're just calling him Matthew now.
My Matthew.
Even though there's a person named Matthew on this podcast, we will refer to Matthew McConaughey as only Matthew.
He very much just assumed she was being emotional. Yeah, it's further away from the black hole. Like, there's more of a chance that things would get to that planet as opposed to the planets that are close to the black hole, where, like, if asteroids are coming in that could deliver certain minerals to the planet to make it flourish, it would get there, as opposed to being close to the event horizon and the black hole, it would suck it in and not be delivered to the planet, right? So there's a better chance.
To that I say, if you say so. I mean, I have no idea.
Well, if you watch the science of Interstellar, where there's a little...
Okay, but what happened in the movie? I don't remember any of this being said in the movie.
Well, because you didn't watch it the second and third time because you didn't miss everything from before. She is saying those are the reasons we shouldn't do this. The Edmund's planet is further away, so has a better chance of getting...
Right.
Things are actually going to make it there. Anyway.
Okay.
He's not listening.
Right.
He's not listening to her. Yes, exactly.
I mean, yeah, she's right. But, I mean, it seems like a big flaw in the plan. Like, Michael Caine makes this whole big show saying, like, they're heroes. They knew that they would just go out there and not see anyone ever again. And they didn't have, I think he says, like, they don't have kids or a close family, or I don't know. He kind of makes it seem like they're... Don't worry, it's okay if they get lost in space. They don't have anyone here. Yeah. I think you should leave. They're not real people. But just this idea that once someone got there, if they survived, why not ping the thing and get someone to come rescue you?
Yeah.
Well, because I don't
blame Damon.
Yeah.
I know, but Damon, if he was heroic, the heroic thing to do would have been to live out his days on this ice planet and die alone.
Correct. That was the plan.
Yeah, but he's a creepy
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not that much of a hop, skip, and a jump to think they might say there's life here just to see another person again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the part that you either really connect with this movie with or it loses you, because there's a whole thing with Matt Damon. You just got to trust me. He basically blows up their ship, and as a last gasp effort, Cooper decides that what he can do is slingshot the ship around Gargantua. That's the big black hole. And he can get them to the final planet.
Yes.
But what you don't know is that he, in his own head, is going to eject himself and TARS to lighten the load of the plane so that it can actually make it there, so that Dr. Brand, the young Dr. Brand, Anne Hathaway's character, can make it to Edmund's planet and fertilize all these embryos, and the human species will go on, as far as he knows.
Yes.
But now to do that, he's got to launch himself and TARS into the biggest black hole science has ever known, Gargantua.
Yes.
And then what happens when they do is they fall into a tesseract. Now, this is pre-Avengers, when, people aren't just throwing around the word tesseract.
Yeah.
And it is basically someone, and we can talk about who someone is, has created a model that a 3D human can understand. And in that model is the bookshelf and Murph, his daughter's room. And he can use gravity to send her messages.
Yes.
Which everything you've seen in the first parts of this movie, even though they're many years apart, they're all basically happening within seconds of him being in this tesseract.
Right.
Does this work for you at all?
You mean like the sensing of where he needs to go in the
Well,
tesseract?
just start with this whole concept of, like, he goes into the black hole. As far as the first time I was watching the movie, I was like, okay, I guess he's dead and he sacrificed himself. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly he's in this very bright, multicolored, I mean, it's difficult to even explain what it is. Like a series of 3D rectangular tunnels almost.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of scroll through all of time. Mm-hmm. Because time is not linear in the fifth dimension that these future beings have. But we can't comprehend that, so they're like making it into a thing that we might be able to understand.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like a drawing of what a tesseract is and watch the animation, it's like kind of going in and on inside of itself in 3D. So you can see like it's really cool, all the math and such that Kip put together with his team to have them design these things that are as close to what they were thinking as possible. I mean...
Yeah, but so what if I don't understand what's happening?
But forget about the science of it. You're watching a movie.
Yeah, okay,
Suddenly
exactly.
a man is behind a bookshelf.
Exactly.
Well,
and he is communicating with someone.
That's right.
Does it work for you or not? Because
it doesn't.
The first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is this?
It doesn't work because why? Why are we communicating? We can manipulate gravity. Time has no meaning where we are right now. We are choosing the most weirdest, most artistic, yes, maybe visually interesting, yes, way to communicate with my daughter. But like, if I can manipulate gravity where I am, I can type out an email.
If you're listening and you're confused by this whole time thing and how he can just go through any time that we experience linearly, he is experiencing it however he wants to. He can go forward, he can go back. The analogy that I read that makes sense to me is a book. You have the book, you can flip through from page 1 to page 2 to page 3 and so on completely linearly. But when you get to page 120, you can also go backwards, back in time to page 60.
Sure.
But what you can't do is change anything about the book. So you can go back in time to page 60, but the next 60 pages will still play out exactly the same as they did before.
Right. Okay.
The difference here is that he still can't change anything in the past, but he can go back to any page in the book, which is what he's doing in the Tesseract, right? Yeah. He's going to like day whatever that is with Murph in her room, and then another, however many days ahead of that.
Sensing where to go with the love connection.
Yeah, well, let's not even get to that yet. Let's not get to the love part yet.
But he is changing things. He's manipulating.
But that's my question. So what is the gravity part of this? They make a point. They say multiple times. Well, gravity's the only thing that can go through time.
Right.
The only consistency.
Why? Yeah, I don't really understand that part.
Well, the real why, to me, is why do you need him to do this? You're already highly evolved. Like, what is the circumstance that you need him to go back and save you again if you're already this highly evolved?
Right. I mean, I was hoping we weren't going to get into this, because this is now we're into like time travel paradoxes. So You're saying, at least as we are experiencing the movie, McConaughey goes into the wormhole that's next to Saturn. He explores this planet. He finds it. Human life persists. Many thousands of years, maybe millions of years in the future, humans have evolved to the point where they can do things like put a wormhole next to Saturn so that humanity can come and save themselves so that they can still exist in the future.
Right.
But they must already exist in the future if they're putting these wormholes there the first time McConaughey goes through them. Now, the way this was explained to me, or yelled at me on Reddit, if you take a piece of paper and you put a point and then you drag your pen across the page, then that's, time going linearly. So in that sense, this paradox would not make sense. But someone said, imagine you have a stamp and that stamp has a circle on it, and you stamp the page and the circle is there all at once. So there is no beginning, there is no end. Everything always was.
So
Does that make any sense to you? Not really to me, but
it's just cyclical. So this has to continue over and over and over again.
Well, yes,
Sure.
and yes and no, because it's happening over and over again in a way, but also it just is, because it's the stamp.
Yeah, I
right?
think it is. I don't fully get that, but
you can't. That's where the paradox comes in, because you can't exist in the future unless you create this wormhole for Coop to go through to send back the formula to his daughter, right? Like, none of this happens unless this happens. So at a certain point in the future, they have to make a conscious decision to say, all right, we got to make the wormhole now. Otherwise, these last 100,000 years didn't happen, right? Like, that's what we're saying. That's what they're saying.
Yeah,
and that's why and this is the main problem of the movie for me, because I think it's cute and clever. This is a Nolan, like, thinking of every single detail except for the last little twist, and then it's just like, well, I think it would be cool if it ended up being us. It's us. Surprise. Credits, right? Like, I mean, I would have been it's way more interesting to me if it is actually aliens.
Okay.
Like, which happens in Arrival, right? Like, it's like, we're coming to the planet. We're going to give you this gift. And I guess it's a spoiler for Arrival if you're not prepared. But
there's a reason why they're giving the gift, because
right.
Yes.
So because we need your help, sort of thing. So we're going to give you this thing that's really cool. And then there's a really heartwarming story within that as well. This is not the first time we've seen a time travel and sort of if you try to wrap your head around it too much, then, I'm talking about Back to the Future, the time heist in Avengers, all of these things we've seen and we've had fun with before. But if you stop and think about it, it's like, this doesn't make a lot of sense, I guess. But then, those movies get away with it because they're so not steeped in actual science. Do you know what I mean? Like Kip
for sure.
really, really outdid himself in terms of how the wormhole looks. What would happen? What is the time difference on this planet so close to a black hole? What would a black hole look like? All of these details are in there. And then they just gonna go, well, whatever. It's like, it was us, and it's just sort of a clever twist. And to be fair, it is a clever twist. It is interesting that it was Matthew McConaughey behind the bookshelf telling him to stay, right? Like that's a heartbreaking part of it.
Yes.
And then the journey that he goes through when he's behind the bookshelf is like, all right, well,
first it's stay.
It's first to stay, and then it's like, all right, well, I got to get myself to NASA. So he does the coordinates, and then he's giving her the formula through the watch, which was like, okay, I get that it's the symbol of their love kind of thing, but god damn it, there's no way that I would have figured out that this is Morse code. Like the second hand is sending a message.
How long is it? Like, this is presumably a very difficult equation that he's sending over to her. How long? That's the thing where it's like, yes, you can thumb through the pages in the book and go back in time, but you can't change anything except for gravity. Right. And so then gravity allows you there are strings on the watch, and he's just kind of like plucking them like it's a violin. Okay. And then guess what else? Love can cross space and time, and love can direct you to the moment you need to see So it's like, fine, go through the science stuff, but even with the science stuff, they're still, being cute with it in a way that the first time I watched it, and honestly, somehow a little less the second time, but the first time that is kind of what turned me off.
Right.
It feels like trying to understand this stuff honestly feels like when you do drugs, like let's say you do shrooms and you're in the middle of the trip and you're like, oh my God, I just had a very valuable insight. I think that I can explain a lot about the world now.
And then you can't.
And then the next day you wake up and you're like,
what happened?
What? It just falls through your fingers a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
And so just when I think I understand the science behind this, I'm like, but what about this and what about that? And I don't know. It does fall apart a little bit for me. But let's get to the black hole. Because we've talked about the visual effects a lot, and I've been kind of alluding to this, which is that this thing is so impressive what they did. Some of the frames of the black hole, like when the Endurance is circling it or getting, kind of sucked in by it, some frames, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's 24 frames per second?
I believe so.
They took 100 hours to render one frame of this thing. So if there's 24 frames per second, that would be 2,400 hours of rendering for 1 second of video, which I did the math is 100 days, I think.
Yeah.
So it'd be 100 days for a second.
Wow.
And apparently this model, like whatever they put into this, model and VFX generator that spit this thing out, was so good that scientists actually use it to see like how a black hole of this size might behave.
Wow.
Amazing.
Which
cool.
Again, a tip of the cap. I'll tell you what, in 2014 when I was watching it, I wasn't going, wow, I bet scientists for generations will be studying this depiction of a black hole.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of like a little bit of the Nolan jerking off thing that does turn me off sometimes, where it's like, fine, I agree, this is cool. It's cool that the buildings are folding in on themselves in Tenet, but to what end? Like, does this story make sense? Am I connected to these characters?
Yeah.
Again, as I said, I mostly did enjoy the movie, especially on a rewatch, but it is this last part that kind of takes you out of it.
Yeah.
Or is it the end? Do you want to get to the end?
So the end, he's reunited with Murph.
Let's just say if Rachel fell asleep here, I think that'd be a fine ending to the movie.
just seeing his daughter.
Yeah.
Behind the bookshelf. Yeah, but now he sees his daughter in real life right after this.
Right.
So he gets spat out of the black hole and is floating near the Saturn, Earth space station.
Yes.
And he gets pulled in. And he is now, I looked it up, he's 124 years old, Coop is.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor's like, hey, welcome to Cooper Station. Something that rubbed me the wrong way is he goes, wow, they named a space station after me. I don't think he would have asked that. I think he would have let them say, it's named after you. Like, didn't feel like that was true to his character to start being like braggy, like, oh, you named a space station after me.
I agree.
But of course he needs to say it so they can say, actually, it's named after your daughter.
Yeah.
The Coop and Murph scenes in the Endurance on video made me cry the first time and the second time. The actual meeting does not work for me. I don't know how you felt about it. It doesn't work for me because, well, Murph's on her deathbed.
Yeah.
And she says no parent should watch their child die, and she tells him to leave and go find Brand. Which, how does she know that they're in love? Like,
are they in love?
Guess?
I mean, was that?
I mean, that's certainly the implication.
There
isn't
was
it?
there was some chemistry there between them. Like I logged 3 eye rolls that she gave to him the whole time, and that's not a sign of chemistry. I don't know what is.
Well, flirtation.
Yeah.
Well, do you find it weird that none of his grandkids want to meet him?
Yeah.
Yes.
That whole part of it is.
And then
it
he
is
doesn't give a
awkward.
shit. Those are your progeny. Those are your grandkids.
Yeah.
And she's just
You
like,
don't care?
goodbye. I'm like, what? He hasn't seen you. You're just
Yeah.
I know. It's too trying to wrap everything up in a nice bow.
Yeah.
Oh, you think
fast.
Cooper's dead? Oh, you think Murph is dead? Well, you're wrong. Because it's the future-ish now, and she can be kept alive and hypersleep, and now they're going to have a meeting, but the twist is she's an old lady.
Yeah.
She's about to die. Wouldn't you want to spend every goddamn second with her and meet her kids?
Yeah.
Your daughter's kids? And rather than going off to find Anne Hathaway?
Well, he's got to get her. I mean, she's going down for the long nap, and she's got to get woken up, right? Get that settlement going, that civilization flourishing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I would have wanted to, at least catch up on the last 75 years, So
how's it going?
how'd you build this station, all that stuff. But
So the watch thing. You got the watch?
yeah, at least mention that, right?
Yeah, Dad, I got the watch.
She does show him.
Time.
Yeah.
I did like the twist of that the what we think we're watching of a documentary is actually from the past is actually a documentary from the future.
Yeah.
That's a nice little twist,
that was neat how they brought it back and how they redid his house, and it was like a little museum. That was cool.
Little museum, yeah. This is a big ass space station. I'll tell you that. Baseball diamond in it.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Pretty impressive.
Very
That little
cool.
gravity theorem that Michael Caine couldn't figure out.
And very cute, him fucking around with the new TARS model and recalibrating the humor setting, the truth setting, or the honesty setting, all that.
So do you think it should have ended earlier? Like, do you think... Because there's the Tesseract scene, which one can argue whether it works, but then there's this scene that just is so maudlin, and it almost feels out of place in the... Now, is the movie emotional? Yes, but it's not really maudlin. I found this to be a little cheesy.
Agree. I think the emotional peak between Murph and Coop is the watch when she cracks the code. Like that's sort of the end of that resolves that whole relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been mad at you for 25 years, but now I see that you didn't just abandon us. You reached out through this thing that I love, and
and she gave her brother a big old hug and was screaming.
Yeah.
He saved us.
So the resolution, the family is basically intact, even though Coop is still millions of miles away. So I think it could have ended there. We don't even have to find out what happened. What's more interesting is what happened to Brand, right? Like I would have liked to see them get reunited. Like we have a shot of her burying her boyfriend who died of old age, presumably, right? Because she gets there 50 years late.
I don't need to see him reunite with Brand personally.
The resolution that I wanted to see, or at least, and I guess we kind of get it. Like he's on his way out.
Yeah, you get it. He's on his way there. Yeah. He's going there. I mean, so they have the embryos, but they're going to be like Adam and Eve essentially. Yeah. But then also the people that are in all these space stations that are orbiting Saturn are also going to go through the wormhole and go to this planet, right?
Yeah.
So it's really a combination plan A, or I guess will they even do plan B? Maybe they'll have to use Plan B for Plan B.
An unfortunate name for the Plan B, to say the least.
Yeah, if someone says it's Plan B, then just, yeah, suspicious. Before I ask you, is this bad? Out of curiosity, do you believe intelligent life exists on other planets?
I do. I think the odds are higher that they do than they don't.
Yeah, I'm now 100% yes.
Wow.
100%.
Okay.
And movies like this only make me feel it more when you just have to wrap your brain around. It's not just like our solar system or galaxy, universes. There's many universes, each one with billions of stars. Like, how is it not happening? I mean, look, there's 3 planets that were, well, I guess they weren't actually viable, but the ice planet was enough that you could walk around on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, exactly.
There was a really pretty shot of it, all the different colors of grays, and then they're walking to Mann's little setup, the shelter, and there's just the American flag. It's the only color in it. It's very pretty.
Beautiful.
It's great. It's great.
Are we going to rank the movies?
Okay, let's talk about if this is good or not first.
Okay.
And a little bonus at the end.
A little bonus.
He's really edging you on ranking your science fiction movies, Rachel.
It's so bad.
Is this bad, JD?
Is it bad? No, it's not bad. I thoroughly enjoyed this on a rewatch. I am confused by the science of it. And I do sort of chalk it up to him. Maybe I'm not smart enough to get it, you know what I mean? Without going on Reddit, without, reading a ton of books and, getting Kip Thorne's bestseller, The Science of Interstellar.
I've got Stephen Hawking's Universe in a Nutshell upstairs for you.
Okay, I'll maybe I'll crack into that. But on an emotional level, I thought, the relationship between Murph and Coop, I was 100% in. It made me well up many times during this movie. I thought that this space travel was very, very cool to look at and to experience. And I was with them. When that wave is coming at them, I'm with them. I'm, and I'm feeling everything. And shout out to Anne Hathaway. We barely mentioned her on this, but she's one of my favorite actors. I love her in everything, and I thought she was incredible in this. So aside from the ending and the twist, which I found unsatisfying and maybe even a little stupid, but again, maybe it's me that's stupid, I'm going to say Interstellar is good.
Okay. And wait, and just out of curiosity, do you think it's gooder than the first time you watched it, or about the same?
I enjoyed it much more the second time I watched it.
You did? Wow, this is the first time this show's actually worked.
We did it.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I feel so good. Rachel, is this bad?
No, I know it's great, but I do have that. Okay, this is cyclical. This is just going to keep going and going. It feels like a Kafka novel. Is that what's happening? Like,
you're talking about like McConaughey having to do this over and over and over again.
Like, just it's a bit too Kafka-esque for me to feel like satisfied. But I loved it. I'm just not getting full satisfaction.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good though. But but this is your first opinion of the movie though, right?
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
I'm going to get better at this, honest.
I read one critic, Jason Bailey in Flavor Wire. I'm going to read you this quote, and it doesn't sound like it's about Interstellar, but it does come back around. So he says, I've been a Beatles fan since I was something like 8 years old, but it took me until somewhere in my late 20s to realize I preferred the White Album to my previous favorite Beatles albums, Sgt. Pepper and Abbey Road. The White Album isn't tight or disciplined, it's messy in conception and execution. And this is a long way of getting around to saying that Christopher Nolan's new film, Interstellar, doesn't have the crispness of Inception or the jangly momentum of The Dark Knight. It's his White Album, overlong and overwritten, corny and self-important, and also a great movie. And yes, it can be all those things at once. And I read that because I agree with it.
Yeah.
Well, crazy.
Yeah.
Two things I like, the Beatles and Interstellar. I like the Beatles a lot more than Interstellar.
Yeah,
but this is a good movie, despite my frustrations. JD, I feel you. I'm like, fuck, I wish I was smarter to understand this better. But at the same time, I do have to judge it as a movie, and the Tesseract scene movie-wise does not work for me. And people that I've asked about this movie that are like ridicule it, that's the first thing they say is they go, oh, he's in the bookshelf. And I'm like, if you find it stupid and it ruins the movie, I can't really blame you. if I was reading the script, I'd be like, wait a second. This whole thing hinges on someone being in a book. Like, you know, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it works. And yet people, like you said at the start, JD, love this movie. The end is not my favorite part of it, but the visuals are astounding. The acting is great. It looks great. It's a fun movie. Maybe a little long, but I would say it is good. So
Okay.
good for us.
We did it.
People can change.
All right. Number 1 for me.
Okay, hold on. All
Oh,
right.
no, we'll start at the end?
All right, well, so
start over?
we watched 5 movies. Interstellar, The Martian, Contact, Gravity, and
Did you say Arrival?
Arrival. That was the 5th one. Okay.
Starting at 5?
You're doing it?
Well,
Yeah.
my 5th was Contact.
Okay.
Yours?
My 5th, also Contact.
4th for me, Gravity.
4th for me.
You don't remember?
What are they again?
Maybe you should have written these down.
Arrival, Interstellar, The Martian.
Interstellar, number 4.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3 for me was The Martian.
Gravity for me.
Number 2, Interstellar.
Arrival.
Okay, number 1 for me was Arrival.
And number 1 for me is The Martian. There you go.
Okay.
Oh, The Martian, really? I mean, I like The Martian. I actually rewatched that during the pandemic and didn't love it as much as the first time I saw it. I do agree Arrival is probably the best of those. Gravity, some people hate Gravity. But
I know.
I as long as you're seeing it in the theater, that was cinema, baby. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's great. It's just a stranded person.
It's also cheesy and a little convenient at times, but it looks cool as hell.
Yeah, it is so fun, that movie. I loved it.
All right. Well, I'm glad to see that this premise of this podcast finally.
Yeah, me too.
5 movies
Me
into
too,
it.
because there are a lot of people who are like, these people are just going to talk about movies they hate. Which
We will be doing that.
It'll happen
but
again.
not always.
It'll happen again.
We will be announcing the next movie soon. We will
Yeah.
do another one.
Yeah.
Hopefully we end up turning around on that one too.
Yes.
But we'll give you plenty of notice on that. Check us out, patreon.com/isthisgood. Because even though this movie is on Netflix, JD for some reason paid for it on on iTunes. I don't know why he
That
did
was
that.
whoops, my bad.
It was at least only $4.99. That was good.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so perfect. Well, only one person has to subscribe to the Patreon to make that money back. If you have topics, email us isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. I'll also accept suggestions of movies to do next. Tell us what you thought of Interstellar, and if your opinions have changed since you first saw it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for leaving a 5-star review for Rachel and JD. I'm Matt Austin, only the second Matt on this podcast. Thank you for joining the Is This Bad Movie Club. We'll see you soon.
Bye.